in Philadelphia. Of the Power 50 of top talk radio shows streamed on the internet. We now return to Aaron Klein.
Continuing right now as we unravel the Red Army, the radical network behind a lot of what you're seeing unfold in this impeachment charade. If you're just joining us, Bill Taylor, the acting U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, we just reported, has a very cozy relationship with, in fact, wrote articles for, wrote Ukraine policy pieces with the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank whose primary funder and most important partner is Burisma. You all know what Burisma is right now, the natural gas company that paid Hunter Biden, and that is at the center of all of this. And then also Bill Taylor separately has a very cozy relationship. In fact, he was a senior advisor to the U.S. Ukraine Business Council, which is funded by Burisma and is in partnership with, has participated in events co-hosted with Burisma and the Atlantic Council. Now, before we get to more of this and Schiff and a certain mysterious trip, let's go to Joshua Klein, who's a researcher and reporter for this show, and Breitbart, who is another senior advisor along with Taylor to the U.S. UBC, and we're going to see that it's not just a senior advisor. Taylor and this individual have been involved with many initiatives together. They work together. Who is it? Why is it relevant?
Yeah, so it's none other than David Kramer. David Kramer, the infamous dossier affair that we'll get into, I'm sure. So he actually has a very close relationship with Taylor and Kramer, starting with the council, also with the Atlantic Council, actually, with the report that you mentioned, where they were pushing, policy papers out on Ukraine. David Kramer was heavily involved with that effort through something called the Freedom House, where Taylor actually was one of six featured speakers at that event. Then the Atlantic Council published a 24-point plan on, the relationship between Russia and Ukraine and corruption. Kramer, through his organization Freedom House, along with kind of the Atlantic Council, also heavily, pushed that out. Even beyond that, actually, when he was appointed ambassador to Ukraine, this is an article in the Kiev Post.
But before that, so when Kramer was organizing this whole thing at Freedom House for the Atlantic Council, he included on there as one of the signatories Taylor. But yeah, continue. And Taylor, again, Democrat star witness right now, who the media claims said there was a quid pro quo, which again, there should be. That is exactly what the president should be doing. If you're giving $1 billion in aid, you should have many quid pro quos. So just the whole argument here that we're sitting here and say, oh, there was a quid pro quo, there wasn't. What are you talking about? The media has created a totally fake narrative. It doesn't matter whether there's a quid pro quo or not. And it doesn't matter if Trump asked them to investigate Biden. And of course they should, because Biden was involved in the whole fake dossier from start to finish. And that part of that involved Ukraine. The fake dossier investigation is now a criminal investigation. Donald Trump also, by the way, there's a lot more to the whole corruption allegations of Burisma that we've never gotten into yet, and we're not going to do it tonight, but there's more to it. And Donald Trump rightfully wanted all of that investigated. So just the fact that we're already arguing in America, was there a quid pro quo or not? It's already a false argument because it doesn't matter. There should be a quid pro quo. But let's withdraw. Let's rewind. Bill Taylor, who claimed quid pro quo when there wasn't. But again, even if there was, it's not impeachable. There should be quid pro quos. So it's insane that we're talking about this. Bill Taylor worked very closely with Kramer, and we have the other links here, and it's up at Breitbart.com. So we don't need to go through all the links, but they worked very closely. We have it all there. Many events, many initiatives, Taylor and Kramer and the Burisma-funded Atlantic Council. Let's rewind for a minute and remind us who David Kramer is.
Yes, of course, David Kramer was heavily involved, obviously, in the dossier, getting it out there. He worked with the McCain Institute. He was actually sent by John McCain after something called the Halifax Forum. This was during, the presidential elections between Trump and Clinton at the time. He was actually sent out to meet Christopher Steele in person in London to get the information and the dossier, and then to report back to McCain on the information that he received in London. So he did take that trip. Then he gets a copy of that. Well, he doesn't get a copy of it. A copy of that is given then to McCain. McCain then gives that to the FBI. But McCain actually then goes and asks, I believe specifically David Kramer, to make sure that, people in the administration are aware.
I just want to stop you for a minute to spotlight how insane this is. David Kramer, when he got the dossier, remember, he went to London and he got it from none other than Fusion GPS, from Steele, who worked for Fusion GPS. So when McCain's aide, David Kramer, obtains this document, he already should have known he's getting it from a group that specializes in misinformation for political campaigns and political reasons. But continue. So he not only gets it, but he personally makes sure that members of the Obama administration take it seriously, correct?
Yeah, so during a deposition, it came out that, Kramer revealed that he met with two Obama administration officials to actually inquire whether the anti-Trump dossier was being taken, quote unquote, seriously. And he names these. One of them is someone on the National Security Council, which is, not some small council. I mean, that's directly connected to the Obama administration. Someone named by, I believe, Sistel Wallander. And then he also met with Victoria Nuland, who, my God, we could do a whole segment on her alone, but her own connections with this entire saga of the dossier.
Yeah, Victoria Nuland was the woman who, first of all, she scrubbed the Benghazi talking points for Hillary, and then she's the one who personally greenlit the FBI to originally meet with Chris Steele. Now, this means Chris Steele reporting a false crime to the FBI, and it went through Victoria Nuland, who David Kramer, the McCain aide, met, the same David Kramer who is on this repeated boards and worked very carefully with Bill Taylor, the guy who's the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, acting scandalously, and now is the star witness in impeachment, and then also so this whole thing, by the way, ties together. We're getting from Atlantic Council and Burisma to now the dossier 2.0. But we go back to dossier 1.0, Kramer, and he's working with the number one witness, star witness of Adam Schiff. Didn't Kramer also take a little bathroom trip where a certain photograph was taken of a certain dossier from a certain website called BuzzFeed? And I distinctly remember this. This is where Kramer's in the McCain Institute with a reporter from BuzzFeed.com. And then Kramer, of course, got the dossier from Fusion GPS, the opposition research firm paid by Hillary and the DNC. He's not allowed to give it to anyone, but he goes to the bathroom, according to a deposition, leaves a reporter from BuzzFeed in the room with the dossier, and then, according to the deposition, is like, don't take any photographs of this. Then he goes to the bathroom, and then what we know next is BuzzFeed publishes the dossier, gotten clearly by Kramer, the guy working now with Taylor, the number one witness of the impeachment insanity here. Now, let's tie this back. Let's trace this back again with Kramer and the U.S. UBC, the Business Council, and Taylor first arriving as Trump's envoy. And I have to say, whoever is pushing these appointments through when you've got these like never Trumpers, and Taylor is being represented by a never Trumper himself, deep state people, and then these are the people who become ambassadors. I think Trump doesn't even know about it. Never met Taylor, he said. But okay, Taylor arrives just a few months ago in Ukraine, and who welcomes him?
Yeah, so this brings it full circle and why it's relevant right now. I mean, this is, as you mentioned a few months ago, he's welcomed by this glaring piece by none other than the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council via something called the Kiev Post,
which is basically the number one news. It's like the New York Times of Kiev.
Yeah, and is actually funded by the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council heavily. So they write a welcoming piece, and in that piece, Kramer himself comments about, the appointment of Bill Taylor to the ambassador position, and he writes, quote, "He's a great choice for now," Kramer said. Kramer gushed. So, I mean, when you have Kramer, the guy at the center of the dossier, the guy at the center of this coup effort to undermine the presidency of Trump, gushing over the appointment of Bill Taylor now to become the ambassador to Ukraine. There is something wrong with this picture. And as you mentioned before, I mean, and Trump actually kind of insinuated very directly the other day, tweeting out what you exactly said. That people have to be a lot more careful about the people that are being hired into this administration. There's nothing more dangerous than a never-Trumper. I mean, at least the Democrat, you can see his colors. The never-Trumpers, they burrow in. They do, they try to undermine you literally from within. So I agree with you on that point. And the fact that Kramer, again, is gushing over his appointment is all you need to know about, Bill Taylor and, this bigger picture.
So I just want to, because we're going to now tie it even more together to the actual impeachment office, just to rewind again, to sort of go through what we just reported. Number one, the star witness who claimed a quid pro quo when there wasn't, and again, even if there was, that's what there should be, Bill Taylor worked for, had a close relationship with, wrote pieces for the Burisma-funded Atlantic Council. He also served for 9 years at the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council, which is financed also by Burisma, at the center of the entire thing. He worked at the council as an advisory member and had a close relationship and did many initiatives with and was welcomed to Ukraine by the hoax dossier perpetuator of John McCain, David Kramer, who played a central role in getting out the fake dossier to the media. In fact, it was first reported in the media by BuzzFeed after he basically gave it to them, and then played a central role in getting it to the Obama administration, which also McCain himself did after Kramer got it. McCain then delivers it to James Comey, who's now very likely under criminal investigation. But if you think it couldn't get any weirder, stay tuned, because it's going to get crazy. We're going to tie it all together next.
זה הסיפור כי את יפה גם בלי בור אני מודה אני מכור רק לשטויות שלנו יחד כל השנים איתך לחיות או לא להיות אחרי הכל נוכל גם לנסות איך אני נסחר עדיין